Okay, and now we move on to the next report, which is the Recreation, Sports, Events and Unit Quarterly Update. Thanks so much, Sam. Welcome, Nigel. And thank you for a really good, thorough report. It is really good, and nice to see the scale and breadth of the work that happens in this space. So did you want to introduce the paper, and then we'll open up to questions? Okay.
Yep. Kia ora koutou.
Show again.
So what I propose to do today in terms of is to table the report as read. What I have invited in terms of is the team that do the good work for us. So behind us we've got David Bailey, who looks after the Sports Services Unit, Ben Roscoe, who looks after the operations, the aquatics and the operations of the facilities, Craig Hutchings, who you met, who looks after the facility establishment, Jackie Hibbs, who looks after customer and program, so fitness, learn to swim, and the customer front desk, and then Lucy Blackmore, who looks after events and arts as we go through. Clearly, in terms of you would have seen through the report, and the appendix to that is the participation targets we've had so far. You'll note that we've circa got 1.9 million participations as at the end of December, which is well behind plan of 2.5 million. So COVID-19 is having a significant effect on the participation rates we're having, and that's purely based on the fact that we're now limited through some of the frameworks to 100 people per space in the outdoor events or the indoor events that we have. But I'll leave that for the team to talk about that a little bit more as we go through. The other thing that I do need to acknowledge in terms of obviously just prior to Christmas, the team's been through some exceptionally hard times with the incident or the tragedy at Waltham Pool. So we're still working through that, supporting our staff and looking after the family as well. So just wanted to acknowledge that as we go through. It's been a difficult time for the teams, but certainly something that we have made some adjustments at the facility to improve, but a tragedy. So I'll invite David down to introduce yourself and sit at the end table away from the X.
Kia ora, folks. Please let me know if you can't hear me clearly enough. So on the first slide, we actually having to spend a bit of energy with our communities and all of us, all of my colleagues and I, to make sure they appreciate that red doesn't mean stop. It actually just means that we can continue to, and it's really important that we're continuing to be physically active. We just need to make sure we're doing it safely. And so there's a lot of messages we're coordinating locally with our individual campaigns, with our customers, and we're also investigating whether we can do something nationally and leverage off a national campaign to help people still be physically active for the mental and physical well-being. Next slide, please. So as Nigel said, there is quite a dramatic impact in some sectors. There's a lot for our often volunteer sports partners and recreation sport partners to be able to digest and then try and implement. We've been instrumental in pulling them together with our local councils as well, and sort of coordinating how people are learning and how things are doing. That's gone very well. We have also been able to be involved in some of the development of the guidelines and actually influence government and Sport NZ about what could occur for our sector. So that was pretty heartening. But there's no doubt that for some sports, the impact on their revenue, the concern about the negative effect it has on habits of people getting out of physical activity, and the impact on the volunteers being available to enable participation is high. And so you may recall when we were in the first lockdown, myself and Julian Falloon came and talked with you about an initiative where we would have Sport Canterbury lead with the engagement of RATA, potentially some Sport NZ funding in our own discretionary response fund to be able to look at individual situations where we can help them, organisations review, deal with situations as they arise. And so that's something that we're going to need to highlight over the next and focus on over the next 6 months going through this stage. Schools also are struggling to digest what they can and can't do, and we get a lot of variation about what they believe is possible within their own schoolyards, let alone coming into the spaces that council provide for them. Not surprisingly, next slide please, some tournaments are getting impacted. Bottom left, the Touch National Tournament unfortunately had to be cancelled this weekend. Athletics have been pretty innovative about how they can make sure they can still run with 100 people in different bubbles. And so there is some great creative work. Next slide, please. So we are often involved in providing spaces for events as well. So some particular examples, school swimming sports, a situation where we have worked with the Ministry of Education, MB and Sport NZ, and it's still trying to help make sure that school swimming sports can occur safely during this term. and also looking at ways, and like Swimming Canterbury have already run a 100 bubble interregional event as well. And so there's a lot of creative work that's going on late into evenings and sometimes just before we start that's been successful. We have, next slide please, we have a number of events that we'll be involved with the delivery of, with the Tactics and the Rams and the Black Caps and the Women's World Cup, which have to occur regardless of what's going on in the community. There's some televised commitments, and so again there's some creative work going on to make sure we can staff those. We're splitting our teams into 3 different bubbles, and so if one team goes down we can still make sure we can deliver to another team, and which would still put them under stress. That's why we have a 3rd team available as well. In many situations we are trying to see if we can enable a group of 100 spectators come into the indoor spaces, or pods of multiple hundreds come into the outdoor spaces. It's a costly approach, but from the benefit that they get and from the message that communicates to the community both in Christchurch and throughout the world that where Christchurch is open for business is important. Any questions, please?
So I forgot to say at the start, Sarah, whether you want questions at the end or after each of the managers talks, and then if there's any significant piece we can take away. So, okay. Good. So, introducing Ben Roscoe, who looks after the operations and the aquatics aspects of our unit.
Kia ora, ko Ben Roscoe toku ingoa. Firstly, I'd just like to discuss the impact that COVID has had on the health and safety of our teams and frontline staff. So as you may be aware, abuse within our unit is one of our highest risks. Last financial year, out of 1,000 reported events in our health and safety system, 440 of those were related to abuse. So it's a large chunk. We've found that under the COVID restrictions over the last year and a half, we've definitely seen the impact and the increase in events. So I suppose what I wanted to let you know is the support that we're providing our staff in these situations. So as you may be aware, we have red badge security currently on the doors of our facilities, which has provided a great support for our team. I'd also like to, I suppose, give a shout out to Red Badge. The council changed security provider last year, and they've provided really beneficial, really good staff that they have to support our team as well. I suppose the tools that we have for our team to deal with these situations, we provide our staff with de-escalation training from an external security provider. We're proactively messaging that abuse is not acceptable within our facility. So above on the slide there is one of the messages we have within the facility, but we also put out messaging on Newsline and through the media when possible to help proactively manage these situations. Also trying to empower our staff on the ground to be able to deal with these situations as they arise. That's it for abuse. Also just want to talk through our maintenance works and capital program. So we have a rolling refurbishment program that we run through the unit. So this is to ensure that our facilities are safe, clean, and as I suppose run as efficiently as possible. Added benefits, the slide above it, we had a recent project at Pioneer last year where we replaced the roof, the HVAC system, and also the pool plant. And we knew there'd be some great benefits, but it's come to light that since the project has been completed, we're saving $10,000 per month in electricity. So we've gone from $39,000 a month down to $29,000, which is just a great added bonus to obviously the facility with better water quality and better air quality for staff and customers as well. Just to let you know what we have on the program coming up is we do have a large push on sustainable initiatives when it comes into our capital program. So this financial year we'll be replacing the diesel burner at Te Hapua swimming pool and also the diesel burner at Cal Stadium. And then hopefully within the next year, the wood pellet burner at at Graham Condon as well. So have a large push on the sustainable initiatives. As you may be aware, we just had a 2-week shutdown of Taura QE2 just for an operational shutdown. So the reason for that was every 3 or 4 years we want to try and get in there and refurbish pumps and extend the lifespan so we don't have any unplanned shutdowns. So the reasons that we do the shutdowns primarily over summer is when we extend our network of facilities and open our summer pools, and it also has no impact on our Learn to Swim program, and minimal impact. Come February, we have a lot of school swimming sports, so we find that the best times to do these refurbishments are over that summer period. Some people think it's strange that it's over that period, but I suppose that's the reasons why. Just like to thank Councillor Major for your message last night you sent through, just in regards to the feedback we've received on that QE2 shutdown and the installation of the new door. So thank you for that. Cool. Great. And last one I just wanted to touch on was we're running our second inaugural manu competition. So we ran this for the first time last year, and this year it's really taken off. We've had some great media coverage. It was on the project. They did a live cross on Friday night, and also with the local papers, but really great for the community. We've had some really good feedback and really engaging with all that are involved. So just wanted to give that a plug. Great. Any questions? Or is that
We'll do them at the end. Do them in.
Right, sure.
I thought it was the end.
Yep, sorry. And then just introducing Craig Hutchins, the Facility Establishment Manager for Recreation Sport. So Craig responsible for the establishment of Patakiori, Hornby Centre, and more recently Te Pau Toi Toi Linwood Pool.
So as Nigel mentioned, as you can see on the facility on screen, my team's responsibility is to get the facilities prepared for utilisation. That involves a whole variety of things, from engaging the community about how they would like to use these facilities, to fit out, to staffing, to marketing and promotions, leasing, etc., etc. So we've completed 2 facilities. Most of you are aware of the success of the first one in the top left, and Mirren Skipper is managing that facility, and I believe she's going to do a presentation to the council later this year. But just reporting on that success, we are tracking for another year of over 100,000 entries. But today, just want to focus on our newest facility, Te Pau Toi Toi, which opened on the 1st of October. And similar to Hapuna Tai Moana, that we, in our first 4 months of operation, we're actually exceeding our targets for visits. Our first 4 months, we've had 75,900 people through the doors, against a target of 41,000. So even though we've been restricted by the number of entries, the community have really embraced that facility. So that's certainly been pleasing to see. And next slide. The most pleasing thing is the story behind the numbers, and that's around how the community is using the facility and who within the community is using the facility. So we've run, once again, you're probably aware of media around the women's only sessions. These sessions have been attended, which run on a Wednesday evening and afternoon. And actually these sessions on Wednesday afternoons and evenings are our highest attendance day of the week. It just goes to prove if we remove barriers for participation, it's more likely that people will attend. So that's certainly been very successful, and also with our Learn to Swim program, our target was 600 enrolments for a term by the end of the year. In term 1 this year, we've hit 400 enrolments, so we're on track to reach that target in that very important Learn to Swim area. And then thirdly is our youth within the community. We partnered with the Canterbury Youth Collective to deliver a youth events. We had the first event on Friday night, and over 135 people attended. And actually we had to turn away groups because of our restrictions on numbers. Once again, the story behind the number is the most heartening and warming thing, that that those people that attended that session were from the local community, and we had a DJ there and a barber cutting hair. It was a real social event that brought the community together. Once again, a partnership with Canterbury Youth Collective as opposed to the council delivering, and we receive funding to enable that event to be free for the community. So they're the facilities that we've got open. We're now moving on to those facilities that are being constructed at the moment, and that's Parakiori and a recreation and sports centre and the Hornby Centre. One of the biggest challenges for these facilities, they're going to be opening probably within 1 or 2 months of each other, is our staffing. We will need to employ over 300 staff across those facilities, 80 odd lifeguards, 40 odd customer experience staff. So we actually need to get ahead of the game. And so I've just put this slide up there to give you an example that rather than waiting for our ads to go out in our recruitment, what we're working with is government agencies and community groups about developing a talent pool before we actually recruit positions. And once again, the heartening thing is that a lot of these positions are frontline roles where people, if we're able to give them the training and the expertise, while it's a challenge to fill the positions, it's an opportunity to give people in Christchurch a job and a foot into the labour market. So we're working particularly hard on that. So there are many other things, obviously, with Parakiori with such a large facility, and I've listed those in the report, and I'll take those as read. Finally, the Hornby Centre, really exciting that we got started on that project. The project management team got started on that project late last year, and construction is underway. My role, once again, is about how we fill the facility once it's open. And the key thing we've done in the first quarter around that is actually go out to the community and engage with them about how they want to use these spaces. So once again, just little snapshot of when we went out to schools and events and asked them how are they going to use this facility. That one of the key stats is that 83% of the respondents said that they would use both the library and the aquatic facilities, and that's how we're going to create a community within Hornby. Actually, this will be Hornby's third place, where the family comes together. One group goes to the library, one group goes to the aquatic facilities. So and we will take on board, just like we did with Te Pau Toi Toi Linwood Pool, where and we'll have a look at these activities and we'll determine what programs we can deliver in partnership with the community. So that's what we're doing in the facility establishment space.
Thank you, Craig. And just like to invite into Jackie Hibbs, the Customer and Programs Manager, to come and talk to the work that she's got going on.
Kia ora. I just want to take this opportunity to talk through some of the partnerships that we have in place, particularly in the programs and activities area, with the aim of improving overall health and wellbeing, access to programs that educate on life skills and physical activity opportunities. The first one that is up there, Skills Active, and Craig briefly touched on this about workforce, but this is a relationship that we've had in place for actually over 20 years, initially called Sofrito, but an industry training organisation, now called Skills Active, and in the last 4 years, we're up to a fourth year of a renewed workplace agreement with Skills Active, which is a set fee, and it's focused on putting as many staff as possible through qualifications through the New Zealand qualifications framework. So we particularly focus, the relationship over the last 20 years has very much been focused on training lifeguards. We've got 2 core service delivery areas of aquatics learn to swim and aquatics lifeguards. So that's the majority that are going through the Skills Active qualifications. But we also have other opportunities to upskill our staff. So as Craig said, we need more staff as we open these facilities, and it's about succession planning and upskilling in other areas. So areas of administration, group fitness, group exercise, fitness, business and leadership. So last October, we put our 8th cohort through this new agreement. Last financial year, we put up to 200 staff through the Skills Active qualification. Prior to last year, one of our core service delivery areas of Learn to Swim, which is a workforce that generally come unqualified to us, so we do need to train them in that area. We used to utilise an external training provider to deliver that training. It wasn't timely, it wasn't the most cost-effective way of doing it. Skills Active now provide a off-the-shelf level 3 certification. So we've put 17 staff through that last year, and we're about to head into our 3rd recruitment round where we'll be delivering this off-the-shelf training ourselves to qualify our Learn to Swim tutors to continue to deliver in this essential space. Alongside that, Ministry of Social Development, so that's actually an agreement that council have, and it's particularly in parks, but relatively new for rec and sport. Last year we piloted a program around pre-employment training for Learn to Swim instructors, and we put 10, Ministry of Social Development identified 10 individuals. We put them through the level 3 qualification and successfully recruited 4 out of the 10 individuals who are now working at Te Toi Linwood Pool. So that's a successful relationship and all about that workforce development. With Sport Canterbury, we have a long-standing relationship and a successful relationship with Sport Canterbury, and I just want to highlight 3 initiatives that we're particularly working on in that space. The first one, Play, which is very much focused around supporting the greater play opportunities for tamariki and rangatahi. This is a new agreement that we have in place just prior to Christmas. And prior to kicking this off and looking at the deliverables and establishing a work plan from that, we did a review of what council currently provide in the play space. And what we identified was that play is enabled through a lot of business units within council, in transport, rec and sport, parks, arts gallery, urban regeneration, and community rec advisors. So there's provision through infrastructure, resources, and services and programs, but there's no one single area of responsibility, and it's inherent. While it's inherent in roles, it's not in position descriptions, and it is driven by individuals. And also, while we have an extensive resources, they're not necessarily easy to find. So some of the deliverables that we've agreed in partnership with Sport Canterbury is to look at centralising all of those amazing resources that we have into a play hub, an online play hub that not only our staff can find, but stakeholders and the community can get access to as well. We also are looking to support Sport Canterbury. There were some projects that came out of a Sport NZ Hui, Play Hui early last year that were focused on the eastern communities, so looking at providing those greater play opportunities and supporting those 5 projects, as well as raising the profile and influencing play enablement within council. So identifying play champions across those business units and getting together on a regular basis. So we have our first Play Hui this Friday with what I would consider play champions across council, and to look at how we progress this and make the most of this agreement with Sport Canterbury. The next one is the Healthy Lifestyles RFP with the CDHB. So that's a $1 million fund that the CDHB are looking for providers to deliver health and wellbeing outcomes for the community and reduce the burden of disease for those with long-term conditions. So we have partnered with Sport Canterbury. They submitted the proposal and led in that space. And it's really about looking at programs, not just about physical activity, but the holistic wellbeing. So mental health, nutrition and social support, and what programs and services we can offer in that space. It would be about an extension of the current green prescription program, so looking at that one-to-one support as well as program delivery to improve those wellbeing outcomes. It's closed, and we should find out in the next 2 weeks whether we've been shortlisted through to that final stage of the RFP. Then we have the Disability Network. So since KiwiAble 20 years ago, there's been a lot of advances in the visibility and support to foster physical activity and sport opportunities for disabled people, and there's a lot more funding available now. Sport NZ have a disability inclusion fund, which is 3.6 million over 3 years. So the KiwiAble network, which hasn't been active necessarily over the last couple of years, we got the stakeholders together, and this was facilitated by Sport Canterbury prior to Christmas, to relook at the purpose. Are we still on track with, is this what we want to do, what the name of the group, and look at a strategic plan. So the group exists currently without a strategic plan, and the agreement of the stakeholders was it needs a name change, and it does need a strategic plan to advance its purpose of providing knowledge and expertise to providers of sport and physical activity providers that are growing participation in that space. So an executive group is forming in February, towards the end of February and March, to look at that strategic plan and deliver in that space. In the Learn to Swim space, we've got a couple of great partnerships going on here, one very much long-standing and one relatively new. So the Oranga Tamariki Methodist Mission and Variety Partnership, we applied for a Te Manawa Fund last year and were successful in achieving funds to put 60 children from those three organisations through Learn to Swim lessons. So this is targeted on tamariki and rangatahi in high deprivation areas, identified by those three partners, and that funds 20 lessons over a 6-month period, so over 2 terms, and also provides unlimited access to the swimming pools outside of those lessons. It also provides equipment such as togs, towels and goggles if they don't have those, as well as concession cards for whānau to come and swim at the same time or outside of lessons as well to encourage safe supervision. So we started that last year, put 60 children through that program last year. We're into our 2nd year. We have enough funding now for 110 children. We've actually got 80 enrolled in Term 1 and Term 2 this year, and more that are going through assessments. So we will easily achieve that 110, and that's a great partnership to provide that essential life skill to children. The long-standing relationship that we have, we've applied for and administered what used to be the Kiwi Sport Fundamentals Learn to Swim program for the last 12 years. We've been successful year on year applying and receiving funding in that space and administering that on behalf of other aquatic providers, private aquatic providers in Christchurch. And that's targeted towards low decile 1 to 6 school students, so it's an curriculum program, years 3 to 8. We've confirmed 2 funding partners and are just awaiting the outcome of Rata Foundation, but the intention is that we would get another 5,000 to 6,000 children through that program this year as well. And then finally, Te Papa Hauora. That's a relatively new partnership and engagement that we're commencing with key council partners such as Sport Canterbury, High Performance Sport and Active Health. And we did have a meeting planned with the Advisory Council last week to initiate those discussions and look at partnership opportunities with Te Papa Hauora. Unfortunately, due to Red's going into red setting, that was cancelled and has been postponed. But fundamentally, we're looking at improving the health and wellbeing outcomes for the community, looking at opportunities with Parakiori, but not exclusive to Parakiori. It's looking right across the network of facilities and out in the community as well. And those 3 areas are around healthcare, so how can we deliver allied health services, looking at wellbeing, looking at mental health, looking at nutrition, social support, early intervention programs, as well as pre and post-operative care, and programs and services and fitness assessments in partnership with those key stakeholders. The other area is education, so how can we look at partnerships with ARA, UC and Otago University, student-led clinics and internships and student placements, particularly at Parakiori, and also research that supports wellbeing and research that also improves athlete performance as well. Thank you.
Cool. So that's a snapshot into the partnership stuff. And then the final one is just Lucy Blackmore in terms of talking about events, development and partnerships we have in that space. Obviously, the impact of COVID has been significant in this area, so I'll hand over to Lucy.
Cool. Kia ora koutou. I'll start with the partnerships and development space. So the events partnerships team have been working with all events that are permitted or funded by CCC to support them through their event decision. They are documenting all cancellations, postponements and event revisions just to understand the impact that we're currently having under the traffic light red. Looking at data from January through to April 2022, there's approximately 27 events that have decided to cancel and 29 have adapted their plans to fit within the red requirements and 12 have postponed so far. 10 events were able to proceed in January, so that was good, prior to or just after the change in traffic light settings. And that's including our own event Sparks, which just got through there, fortunately. Of the events that are funded by Christchurch City Council, 8 have cancelled, 3 have postponed, and 9 are still proceeding, but with a reduced capacity or a red plan. We still have about 12 events that we're working closely with just to see what we can do for them to support them through maybe adapting their plans. For our Events Discretionary Response Fund, this was open to support additional COVID-19 event-related costs that our events funded will endure from COVID-19 protection framework. This fund will remain open until the 30th of June or when the allocation of funds are exhausted. The events who do receive additional funding through the events and festivals DRF at this stage are Thai Festival, Armageddon Expo, La Race, the Holmes Beach Tour and Criterium National Championships. Unfortunately, La Race has cancelled, but that money has just been allocated back into DRF fund and won't be paid out. We're still working with a number of event organisers on postponements, cancellations or alternative delivery options, and we're doing funding payouts on a case-by-case basis at this stage, so it depends on the change and how deep into the event planning they are. With the number of cancellations, the events and festivals DRF will likely increase, but it's currently sitting at around 66,000 for the 2021-22 financial year. Council produced events. So these are our produced events. The events team have planned for the alternative event delivery options in response to the COVID-19 protection framework, which was announced in December. Some of the key changes to be aware of is that, as you know, New Year's Eve was cancelled, and that was due to the uncertainty, but we are still hopeful that the events that we have planned as an alternative to New Year's Eve, which is Summer Nights and the Family Festival, can take place in March at Victoria Square. But we are realistic and have contingencies in place if we are still in red at that time. Our headline from New Year's Eve, which was Stella, has agreed to instead perform at our Go Live Music Festival, which will be returning to Christchurch Town Hall this winter. We've expanded the lineup across 2 nights, so Friday the 22nd and the 23rd of July as well. This will be a ticketed event with a low-cost community pricing. Our live events industry continues to struggle through the extremely challenging times, so the Go Live Festival will provide some much needed relief and support for our artists and industry, and it's also highly entertaining for those who go along. Sparks, as I said earlier, was delivered earlier this month under the orange traffic light setting, and we had a fantastic turnout from the community, which we were delighted to see. The additional costs endured due to the infrastructure requirements of the COVID protection framework were offset by some cancellations, and we were also able to do a cost share with an external event provider who was being produced the week earlier and the week after, just to reduce some of those costs. Our Summer Theatre and Summer Sunday seasons were due to take place across January and February, but they have been cancelled. And we're just working through what funds would be required for the future year with the protection framework in place, and also what relationships for future cost shares we can do to reduce that impact on the events. Our sponsor, Anthony Harper, has agreed for Summer Theatre funding to be rolled forward in their support for the 2023 event with the same production company we had planned to work with. Looking into the future, we're continuing to develop our plans and ensure alignment to the protection framework through exploring commercial partnerships that will support our industry. Community arts. Toi Ototahi. So planning and implementation of the arts strategy, Toi Ototahi continues. We're on the cusp of signing the agreement with Ministry of Culture and Heritage, and this will support a range of activities through until the 2024 year. This is including mentoring programs, workshops, developing Ngā Toi Māori, and content for the soon-to-be launched arts website, Toi Ototahi, and the newsletter. Rata Foundation and Creative New Zealand have contributed funding to support programs, including some of the community-based activity, wellbeing projects, and development of the arts website. Over the next year, we're receiving approximately 200,000 from Rata and 200,000 from Creative New Zealand, as well as the 900,000 from Ministry of Culture and Heritage for an agreed plan of activity that's developed in response to the arts strategy providers. Our arts advisors are also working on a range of events, which is including our Te Ramamai Sparks and summer theatre produced in-house at Council. And that's us in a nutshell.
Cool.
That's fantastic. Actually, Lucy, if you stay there,
Yeah.
because I think we've got the end. One more slide. We move to the-
Just pictures while you're talking, but carry on to the questions.
That's great. I was just thinking if we started with questions, while you're there, Lucy. If we
Yeah,
started
yeah,
with,
for sure.
We start with questions on events and arts, and then we move kind of backwards to the other stuff with the facilities and stuff. So events and arts questions. I know that Yanni had sent one through. Yanni, do you want to ask that one?
Yes, thanks. So, I mean, again, I was just kind of keen to know where we look in regards to the funding that's being put towards the arts, where we get visibility of what projects they are, what the cost is behind each project.
Yes.
I guess as someone who chairs the funding committee, I don't have any visibility about where this new money's going and what it might either replace or what may no longer need funding because of this funding source, or if this is going to create a pressure on us having to fund more. So, I mean, it's really great news that you've got the extra funding, but I'm just really trying to understand how we at a governance level see how this funding is being allocated.
I think Yanni and I can answer that. I think I'll recirculate. I think there was a memo that was sent at the time which had the detail of what the $900,000 was applied for. So I'll pick that up and resend it. And if it wasn't sent, I'll make sure you get a detailed understanding of what those programs are that funding is going towards.
Right, cool. And then the other question was in regards to the arts office. Have we set up an arts office?
No, we haven't set up an arts office in the traditional sense of a building with people in it. But in terms of what we're working through is having a virtual arts office where people come together and connect, as opposed to having a bricks and mortar solution. And that was part of the recommendations through the partners in Toi Ototahi. But we are working in terms of through a creative arts space with the Central City. And once we have that further advanced, then there'd be an opportunity for arts organisations to work out of there at the same time and to network. But there's no bricks and mortar separate arts office. We are working with the resource we've got and using a virtual sense where they connect over a number of different ways.
Right, and just the final question from me in regards to the arts is really good to see that we're now thinking about public art in different suburbs. What's the process for us to put forward areas for consideration?
I'll come in terms of the PAG or the public art group in terms of is separate in terms of doesn't sit within the Rec and Sport and Events unit. But maybe we'll take that away and come up with a memo about how that can go through that. We know that this was just an 8.10 where it said conversations progressed with community organisations that South Shore, Mount Pleasant, Akaroa, Littleton Harbour are getting interested in installing artworks.
Yeah, so we facilitate that process that comes through, and then we help facilitate the work for it. So it can come through our arts department, and then it's working with a number of other departments as well within that one.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Yanni. Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy, for the presentation. I guess maybe it's a better conversation offline with regards to whether it's you or Nigel or both of you.
Yep.
about the support networks for the events industry, because I know the government very much puts forward the tourism and the food and beverage industries, which and I'm certainly not belittling that because everyone's suffering at the moment, but those strategic companies behind the events that are vital to it, because the promoters are the ones that have to apply for the recovery of the funds, but the venues and many of the other companies are really hurting, and it's a wee bit cloudy. And as a major organisation in this, and a large public organisation, perhaps we've got an ability to lobby in that area. So I don't know whether you, but I would prefer to talk about it offline.
Yep, so, and with Christchurch NZ as well, I'd recommend we all work together in putting that through, because we're talking to them, providing data, and then there are a link into central government to understand it nationally. So absolutely.
I've made a note to follow up with you after this meeting,
Thank
Tim.
you very much. Cheers.
Great. Any further questions on events and arts? Okay, Jimmy?
Only one question regarding to the summer arts or the events has been cancelled. By my understanding, the council, the responsibility between the council and the Christchurch NZ is we focus on community event, but the Christchurch NZ focus on major and the macro event. So there probably is more bigger number and more kind of focus on economy, but we are focused on its community. So I just want to know whether, because a moment quite serious, because due to those kind of red traffic light framework, we have to follow one. But whether still possible to postpone once this case, has been released, may we still give the people an opportunity, particularly for those outdoor events, etc. This is a recommendation. Because while if we review our outcome, resilient community, that's very crucial. Celebration of identity through the sport, recreation, culture, arts, etc. This is my recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a specific question in there?
The question is whether it's possible summer event can reduce the number of 100 people, or even a bit more than 100 people is outdoor. We keep the physical distancing, wear the mask, and also to check those surveying tasks.
I think the answer to that was, Jimmy, we're doing everything we possibly can to continue to deliver events under the framework and working with event organisers to see whether there's cancellation, postponement, or whether they can deliver.
Yes.
So we will continue to do exactly what you've just asked us to do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on arts and events? No, thank you so much, Lucy.
No worries, thank you.
Okay. So most of the rest of it was on sort of facilities and what's happening in that sort of facility space. So I will just take general questions on that. Start with Pauline, then Tim.
Thank you. Oh, look, excellent report. It's just so interesting and just really inspiring to see what an amazing council we have. My question's on 6.4.1 on page 24, and that talks about upskilling staff. And is that training also for lifeguards, or is it just for swimming instructors? Or can they be one and the same?
Yeah, our establishment program and looking at government agencies that we can partner with are looking at all our lifeguards and our Learn to Swim instructors. So Jackie mentioned the specific programs about the Learn to Swim instructors, but we are extending that to lifeguard opportunities, because that's actually the biggest group of staff that we will need to employ.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So you're just working on extending that at the moment?
Yep, using exactly the same model that we've got in place, extending it to the other staff. Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
That would be quite good where the university partnerships come in too.
Yes,
What
exactly.
about even high school students in final years?
So reaching out to those groups and meeting with them and getting those year 12, year 13 students trained up. But traditionally, lifeguarding is looking at the younger ones, but there's opportunities for people to re-enter to the workforce as well. So we're our program is looking at the whole range of people and giving them training prior to their advertising or application, so they're ready to go.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic news. And then my other question, if I may, is just on the assistance that we provide in a partnership with for the deprivation situation. So I see in the report it says that this year we helped 60 children to access swimming. It doesn't seem to be very many children, does it? When probably, would it be fair to say there's a greater need than 60? And is there an ability for us to perhaps inject some more funding to be able to grow that program?
Absolutely, that would be the intent. The 60 was the first year of that relationship pulling. We actually started with Variety and Oranga Tamariki, and they're the organisations that identify the children to come through the program.
Yeah.
But it was quite challenging to get even 60 children through those organisations. That's why through the second year with funding, we reached out and contacted Methodist Mission, and they've been great. They've got 50 children already on this program, so the number has increased to 110. So we most certainly, we want to reach out to more organisations and also increase that number.
That's excellent. And is there a age group for that?
It is focused on tamariki and rangatahi, and that's how the funding is provided as well through the Te Manawa funds. So it does go up to 18 years, but
really?
typically it's 5 to 12 that come through the program.
Focus.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note in terms of that's about wrapping the whole support around the entire whānau and family into that, as opposed to that. And that's in addition to the school swimming programs, the other funding we spoke about, which is for deciles 1 to 4, where we focus on reducing the cost of transport to get them there through their schools. And then, of course, we've got the free swimming for those under 5 as well. So it's a package of initiatives as opposed to just one that's going to solve
Okay, and so the deprivation one we're talking about, is that, do they have a separate program, or do you fund them to go into the other existing programs?
They come into our existing program, yes. Yep.
Great, hey, thank you.
Great, thank you. Got Tim, then Jimmy, then Yanni.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick ones, just following on from Pauline's. With the decile 1 to 6, and kids in town that we used to, and I presume we still do, supply buses to get them to the concert area. So is there an issue with getting the kids to the pool? Or because I know that the problems with the lower decile schools are huge with regards to getting kids around, etc. Is there an issue there with that, or is it?
When the program started 12 years ago, the money was specifically for transport subsidy, so it was a transport subsidy, and we had a relationship with Red Bus at the time. It was quite a challenging relationship with Red Bus, and it wasn't a cost-effective way of doing it. They'd bring where they could bring 30 to 60 kids, they'd bring 10 on a bus type thing. So it wasn't the best use of funds. So what we did was relook at how we offer those funds to the school, and they can use it either for lessons or supporting equipment to come to lessons, and look at the best way that they can get to those lessons. The funding gets them to the closest aquatic provider, so whether that's council or whether that's a private provider. And then at the moment, we haven't experienced any issues, but they're very resourceful in how they get children to the lessons. But there are a number of multiple aquatic providers across the city that they don't have to travel too far.
Great, thank you. The second question is, and I don't know if it's you, Jackie, but I'll ask it. With regards to this learning to swim, the majority of the drownings have been in sea or rivers. So I'm just wondering, are we looking at, or do we talk to, when we're teaching people to swim, about the hazards and the different conditions with regards to rivers and sea, rips, etc.?
Absolutely. The Swim Safe program, which is a schools program, is very much based on water safety and education, and we bring in safe boat education as well. So it's not so much about your technique and how far you can swim, it's about learning to swim and survive in the water. and that's the focus of that program endorsed by Water Safety New Zealand.
Right. Thank you very much. Cheers.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Jimmy.
Okay, thank you, Chair. First question is also the 6.4.1 regarding to the a range of initiatives. Particular focus one as officer would like to collaborating with the community group to share the job opportunity, etc. But I'm concerned because this city is a diverse, inclusive community. Whether officer collaborating with the community, whether consider all diverse the community, give every community have equal opportunity, to feedback. Then that on if we recruit those staff, we can meet the requirement of our multicultural strategy, particularly Goal 1. The Christchurch City Council is an inclusive, diverse organization which reflects, understand, and respond to the diversity of individual and the community it serves.
Great question. The answer to that is actually reflecting back on the success we had with Te Potoitoi Linwood Pool, because very much so we wanted to recruit from the local community, and so there was a number of key initiatives that we put in place there. And it was just happening that I was reading the report this morning around that, and we had 30% of our staff who have been employed at that facility living and represented within a 3-kilometre radius of that particular facility. So very conscious of drawing from the community and being reflective of the community, and we do have ideas around that.
Thank you. Second question is regarding to the old council on the facility, the pool or the library, etc., particular library. Whether we did have every the pool has those digital the signage, to remind all those the customer, they are aware they need to follow our health and safety issue, because Nigel, you're probably aware, several years ago, one of the background one, we have dealing with those issues because he was arrested by the police due to some other customer misunderstanding. He was only the selfie, but not allowed to bring his iPhone, So this make a bigger the misunderstanding. Whether now all our poor facility have this digital signage reminder those
The simple
diverse
answer is
people.
yes, we do. In terms of all our facilities, we've moved to digital signs, so screens and in resting areas, so that we can change the signage, change the language, do whatever we need to do. So that's part of our signage strategy. And obviously, after that incident, Jimmy, there's a big shift to using symbols as opposed to just language. So there is a shift, and yes, there is digital signage throughout all of our facilities.
Okay, thank you. Last question.
Thanks, Jimmy.
The Linwood Pool, a moment, we set up a different secret time for women's swim only. That's very good, Probably they consider different religion or different culture. But except Linwood Pool in citywide, whether we have also some other pool have also this kind of time management for those women's only or.
Not going to preempt our decision on that. Once again, we'll engage with the community and determine what are the best programs that are most suitable for that particular facility and for that particular situation. So that's all part of our establishment plan to go out and determine what in the next, because I presume you're talking about when you talk about Central City Parakiori and the possibility of extending that. So yes, we are looking at extending our women's only session, what times, what days, and how extensive that is. That's all part of our establishment work over the next 12 months.
Yeah. And I think, and to add that point, it's not just the women's only session, it's any barriers to participation, whether it's men's only or other stuff. So taking the network approach to that. So certainly Te Potoitoi was a trial, it's been successful, but looking to how we can reduce the barriers across the network for a variety of different reasons, and not just women's only.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yanni.
Thank you. I just had a question in regards to Parakiori. Have we had the memo back about a family room, parent room?
No, you haven't. In terms of there's, I think there's a report coming to the Finance Performance Committee, both around the lift access in terms of the hydro slides, and in terms of the family parent room will be included within that as well.
Right. It's just that, I mean, I get that the hydro slide one will be quite a significant cost and we'll have to make a call, but something like a parent's family room seems to be something that at this stage shouldn't be as expensive.
Yanni,
Yanni,
can you just pause for a second? I think one thing that's quite clear here is that this report today is dealing with the general operations and the planning for opening these facilities. You first raised this and the other one and the lift access at finance and performance, and that's where the information is going to, and the right staff will be there to answer to that in finance and performance, because it's about the build and what's included in the build rather than the operations. So can we just hold it to finance and performance?
I guess though, in terms of our facilities, and staff have given us a really good understanding, they're going through a process to talk to people about what they want at facilities.
That's right.
And how they want to use facilities. And I guess what just occurred to me, because something like a family room or a parent room shouldn't just be something that has to be thought of after the design has been done. So
Yanni,
I'm interested to understand if when we consulted
the build
with people,
work, but the people who were doing the work on that stuff will be talking to that at finance and performance, which is where the information is coming to. And so that's the best place, because then, Yanni, you will have the information in front of you for finance and performance.
Sure. So, okay. So on that specific one, but also we've got like the Hornby Centre coming online. So what I was interested to understand from staff is when you're consulting and engaging the community about the types of activities and things that they want to do you have any ability to look at, talk to people about what facilities they might want in terms of being, family friendly, parent friendly? Is there something that we could do that could just look at, how we can do best practice in that space with people?
Absolutely, Intini Yanni. As we go through, you'll all be aware of the design process we go through, and we have a scope of everything we would like to have within it. As we work through that scope, in terms of sometimes it needs to go through affordability, so there are some compromises that are made through that whole design process, why we have the concept through to detailed design stuff. So we will continue to do that. We do that for every facility, but unfortunately sometimes the budget doesn't allow us to build everything we would like to do. So there are some compromises in that process.
Take Hornby Centre, which is the other one that we've been told that we're going through a process.
If I can finish.
Like, for example, are we going to talk to the mums in the bus group?
Can you turn his microphone off, please? Sorry, Yanni, if you continue to talk over staff, you're just going to have your microphone turned off like it has been now. So Nigel would like to finish answering the question, and I'm sure that the members of the Hornby Community Board will be all over the design stuff.
So that's the design process, and then I'll get Craig to talk specifically around the Hornby design process we went through when we engaged with the community about what activities, what they would like to do within that facility, which was quite comprehensive, I thought.
And I suppose the short answer in terms of the specific issue that you're talking, I think Nigel's talked about the process, which we have run through. We're running through an engagement process about how they like to use the facility, and the council also, in terms of our project management team, ran through a process to determine what was going into the facility. And Hornby Centre does have a parenting room, especially given that it's both a library and an aquatic facility. So yes, we're delivering on what you're specifically asking for there. We need to go back and have a look at Parakiuri and what we can do there, and that will come to the finance committee.
Okay, so I can see that Aaron's got his hand up there. So Aaron, you've got a question?
Yes, it was just around the New Brighton hot pools, and obviously they've been very successful beyond a lot of the initial modelling, which is great, but there hasn't been a flow on to other businesses, I note, and I just wonder if some work can be done around that. I've tried to go there twice myself, and when I've gone to go, it's been booked out. So, which is great. I'm great for the pools, the complex. So I was wondering if we could potentially look into a system of, on a quick Google search, there's 16 cafes and restaurants in New Brighton. Can we not potentially have a system where priority tickets are given to people who book a combination, either a breakfast, lunch or dinner at one of those other places in New Brighton? And so you buy a combo ticket. It doesn't have to be discounted because that's only for losers. You do it for, as in it's a loss for businesses. But it's a package, so the priority goes for buying a combo ticket.
I think if we take that question offline and we respond in terms of the strategy we do have for Hepuna Time Moana, and then in terms of that might enlighten some of the questions about why we don't have casual walk-ups all the time, because we do have a booking system, and we can answer that query offline in terms of through a memo back to elected members.
Yeah, I think that
because
adding though, it's just making sure that we're getting the best benefit from Hepuna Time Moana, not just for the pools themselves, but for that broader economy in the Brighton area. And I know that we have had information through showing the flow-on impact and an uptick in spend in the area.
Yeah.
So maybe if we could just get that information recirculated or updated.
Yeah, because the reason for the investment was to bring people out there to do other stuff and spend money, and it's just the flow-on's just not worth it. So the pools themselves are stacking up, but the value to New Brighton's just not there. So it's how do we value add and make it work for that community is the key.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So we'll get some information back on that. Celeste.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but if you get one of those passes, you can do drop-ins. Is that correct? You can do it.
If you have a concession card or membership, you can turn up to the sessions you would like to, as opposed to a casual walk-up.
It's an option, but
Yep.
yeah, I take Aaron's point on the
Yep.
bringing traffic across into the mall.
Yeah, thanks. Mel.
A few different questions. The first one was about the youth audits of new facilities. I was just wondering, so how that takes place? Do you show them like the plans, or how do things get incorporated into there? What's the process?
Yeah, so Canterbury Youth Collective nominate a representatives from the community, from the youth. We get them together, exactly what you just said, put the plans on the table, actually, depending on the stage of the project. In fact, trying to get a group through at the moment to Parakiori. So if available, they walk through the facility, and we're just actually waiting on the first reports for Te Paitoitoi and Hornby, and then Parakiori will come later around how we can make those spaces more youth friendly. So effectively sitting down with them with the plans, but also a walk through.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you. And with the play spaces, so there's 7.2, the Sport Canterbury staff. I had some questions around that, because we've been talking about this with our community board. I was wondering if council, we were told council doesn't really do any audits on the usage of play spaces or playgrounds, I guess, in Christchurch. Is that true? And are we planning to do any to see about usage of these spaces?
I think we'd refer back to in terms of parks, in terms of how they manage the usage of playgrounds. I'm not sure of the answer, but in terms of, I can check with parks to see what their response is to that. Certainly in terms of the first stage that Jackie spoke to around the play was understanding what council does collectively across, because I think there was we don't tell our stories and we don't say all the things that we do provide in that space. So it's a bit of an audit and then working out how we can do better in that space. But if I take a note to go away and confirm with parks the audit of the play spaces and how they go through that for the playground element of your question.
Mm-hmm. And I was wondering what the local government play champions network is, or what it does. I couldn't find anything online.
So that's facilitated by an individual from Sport NZ, and pulling through the local government play champions. There's Hamilton have a local government play advocate role actually in Hamilton City Council, but they also have a play strategy. So that role is about implementing a work plan from that strategy. Auckland are looking at the same type of role or initiative similar to us, whether it's a role or whether it's focused on deliverables and achieving those deliverables within the council. So this is just an opportunity to share success, share learnings, share stories across other councils that are in this space and doing well in this space, or just starting off in this space.
Mm-hmm. Great. Sorry, I've got a few. And it also mentioned the next bullet point about endorsing and promoting the importance of play. I was wondering how you intended to go about doing that.
So we're very much at the start of that journey, and we have our first hui of council, I would say, champions at this stage, connecting this Friday and looking at how we do that. So this is relatively new. It's a relatively new space for us to play in.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun. But it does commence Friday just with those initial discussions.
And to add to that, there was the Sport New Zealand Workplace Hui that was held here in Christchurch, facilitated. And there's 5 projects that came out of that will be delivered in Christchurch. So that's around the importance of play and reducing the barrier. So we can certainly send through details of what those 5 projects are and how they'll be picked up. And that's the start of the ball.
Mm-hmm. And final question, is there any, because this really talks about, and I guess it's the Sport Canterbury, but about tamariki and rangatahi play, but is there any focus on adult play?
It is very much focused on children and allowing time, space and permission, spontaneous play, not adult driven. So it is very much focused on children.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, one last question from Pauline.
And I was just wondering if we might get a little briefing on that play program as it's developing, because it's really interesting and important at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or those who are interested, maybe we could organise just an offline we catch up to talk through it. How does that sound?
Something like that.
Yep. Does that sound good?
And I'd be happy to move the report.
Okay, Pauline's moving the report. Jimmy's seconding. Anything further from people? Jimmy, you want to talk to it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for officers for your comprehensive report. Particularly this area is very crucial and significant. Recreation, sports, and event, all in relation to every person, every community. And also, if we review the council, the strategic framework, actually is this issue in relation to the resilient community, livable city, healthy environment, also prosperous economy. Particularly regarding the resilient community, we are all aware. This is for the celebration of identity through culture, through sports, through arts, through recreation. So today, I'm very impressed with this report. Particularly, you also mentioned, like to you have a survey, like even take example like a Hornby Center, particular 83% of people, community, they are very satisfied, happy, use the both library and the facility of the pool together, because this is actually, back to several years ago, already have this consultation engagement. It's called located facility. However, council alone, now probably if beginning of next year open, council alone, difficult, a little bit hard, due to the resource limited to provide good quality service. But we take a partnership, that's very good, engage with government agency, NGO, and also the wider community. That's very smart and clever way. But regarding recruit the new staff, because for the future, those Piraki Oli and also the Hornby Center, I'm still would like to strong recommendation, because this city is a diverse, inclusive city. So everyone is equally to access those the kind of facility. We still need to consider is if the more the officers, they are fully can comply with our multicultural strategy, those goals, reflect, understand, respond to the diversity of individual and the community, the services, etc. Last one I mentioned earlier during the question, the event, that's very crucial and important. If possible, community event, if for instance, like if those traffic framework are from the red to the orange, probably we can increase number from the 100 to 500. It's make it happen. So postpone is much better than cancel. Is my recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Phil.
How's that? You got me?
Yep.
Hello? Yep. Good. I must say this is a very good report. It's a good group of it's a good group of well-organised guys and very passionate people about what they're doing, and they're working within the budget we give them, and it's a pleasure to come and actually listen to them. And finally, on a sad note, I'm very sad about what happened at Waltham, and I feel very sorry for all the people who are involved. But apart from that, a great report. Well done, guys.
Thank you. Pauline?
Yeah, look, I commend this report. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's really, really uplifting to read everything in here about the events, the recreation and the sports that this council and this amazing team is delivering, and as Phil said, within a budget as well. And what I really like about it is the way we are reaching out to the communities, and we're running programs in response to what they want. And I note that it's locals that are using these programs, and it's also, I love the way that the staff are coming from the local area as well, because this all helps to really create strong communities. And I really like the fact that we're looking at reducing barriers. That's really key. We want our city to be accessible for everybody. And the deprivation program too, I was really, really impressed with that and the way that that's growing. And also I'm very interested in the play area that we're embracing and identifying the importance of that, so that we can have healthy communities and a healthy future for our city. So, brilliant report. I look forward to this every second month. So well done, thank you.
I don't think it's every second month, but a couple of times a year. Right, no more debate? Anne?
I just wanted to also acknowledge the absolutely excellent report, and to acknowledge too the fact that we're aware of the toll that the work that you're having to do at the moment and cancelling and postponing things must be taking on you all, and we appreciate the work that you're doing to adapt to this very difficult situation and to work for the well-being of our community. So thanks very much for what you're doing.
Right, and with that I will put the vote. All in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Yep, and online that was all good? Yep, excellent. Yeah, no, thank you very much, and thank you so much for an excellent report. And with that, we'll get to close the meeting with a karakia from Councillor Davidson.
Unahia te pōwhiri marama, tomokia te ao whatu tangata, tātai ki ronga, tātai ki raro, tātai ahoro. Homie, huie, tai.
Kia ora, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.